What if your efforts, choices, and actions were meaningless in the grand scheme of things? What if you were doomed from the start? Okay, dramatics out of the way. As you may know, I've been pretty critical of the Blackpill on this channel, and although I don't think it's the right way to go, I do recognise that it does have some valid points, especially regarding the state of today's society. So, in the spirit of fairness, I thought it's only right for me to highlight some of the things that I think the Blackpill gets right. And that's exactly what I'm going to do in this video. So just in case you clicked this video just out of pure curiosity and you don't actually know what the Blackpill is, one, I respect your bravery. But two, the Blackpill is basically a philosophy that argues that physical attractiveness is the most important factor in your success with dating and just in life in general, especially in the modern Western countries. So the first thing that I think the Blackpill gets right is dating and how superficial it's become nowadays. So if we're being honest, I think we can all agree that dating has become very superficial and very much focused on looks. And I think much of that is attributed to the fact that dating now is done behind screens instead of in real life, where it's much easier to make quick, snappy judgments on someone's whole character just based on a couple pictures. When in real life, this obviously isn't the case. And there's a clear emphasis on looks when it comes to dating, especially on these apps, where people are literally selling courses on how to take the best dating profile pictures. That's when you know there's clearly a massive focus on that. And online dating has now become the main form of dating for most people. So now it feels like dating has become kind of almost like a mini game you just pull out on your phone. It's almost just like another app. So people will literally just pull out Tinder or Bumble, whatever it is, swipe for a little bit, just the same way they swipe on like TikTok or Instagram, and then just put it away. So the human connection is definitely kind of like a secondary aspect of it now. It's kind of like just pick the shiniest object. And I will admit, just as the Blackpill says, women's standards have increased. They're higher than ever, whether that's right or wrong. And I think a lot of the issues with dating is just due to how society in the West has become more and more degenerate as time goes on, it seems. Now, you've got to be honest, how society was, let's say, even 15, 20 years ago compared to how it is now. Yeah, it's just like we're just getting closer and closer to, I don't even know, to just complete confusion when no one knows who's who, no one knows what's what, and it's just supposed to be okay and no one can talk about it. I don't know, I just feel like society has become so focused on pleasure, so now people just want to get the most pleasurable experiences with the least amount of effort. And that is where online dating comes in. Because you think about it, an average girl can just go onto any of these apps and within a couple minutes, they can probably have someone over in their house. They can probably have someone come over and the rest is history. For guys, that isn't exactly the same story, is it? So I will admit the Blackpill does have a point there with the differences of, the power of the average woman compared to the power of the average man when it comes to dating. And it's also just because, let's be honest, like values and morals isn't really a major priority when it comes to dating for both men and women nowadays. But I would say probably more for women. I think the modern woman is way more interested in having like a flashy lifestyle and a flashy image than, being in a relationship with like a regular guy who's just respectful and nice. Like I think modern women have been kind of told and kind of brainwashed almost to want to ignore the average guys and just focus on their careers and then sleeping around with, the Chad, as they say, every now and again, which I don't think fulfills them, but that's a whole argument for another story. No, as a whole story for another video, I mean. And I think if we're being honest, most of this comes down to the fact that guys do not approach girls in person anymore. Like it's very rare to see someone just approach a woman and just talk to her. Like now it's become like a whole thing, like having riz or whatever. But back in our parents' days, this was the norm. If you weren't able to approach a woman and talk to her, you probably would never be in a relationship. But nowadays it's almost seen as an extra skill to have to be able to talk to someone in real life, when that should be the main form of communication with women. And since guys are a lot more afraid to approach women in real life, it gives women an easy out because they can just reject so many guys because they're doing it behind the screen. It's way easier. So another thing that I do agree with the Blackpill is that looks do matter. I'm sure that isn't breaking news to you. I'm sure looks matter. I'm sure they matter to you as well. But I will say to wider society, looks definitely do matter. Because I do think they impact almost every aspect of your life. Because the fact is, people treat attractive people better than unattractive people. Whether it's right or wrong to do that, it's what happens. If you bring me a 10 out of 10 guy and then a 2 out of 10 guy and they have the same traits and the same abilities and everything, the same background, the same childhood, I can almost guarantee you their results are going to be very different. And that is just down to the fact that people treat good looking people better than unattractive people. If you're attractive, you get more opportunities. People are more likely to give you the benefit of the doubt. People are even more likely to trust you and give you better positions when it comes to your career, things like that. So I definitely do think they have a valid point here. Of course, this makes it easier to date, therefore easier to reproduce. And how can I talk about looks and the black pill without talking about looks matter? Now this is a more, I would say, controversial part of looks matter kind of belief that the black pill has. Because of course, although like obviously looks matching is good, like in trying to improve the way you look, obviously that should be what everyone's trying to do, but I think it should just be looking after yourself. So working out, being hygienic, dressing well, smiling, smelling nice, getting some money. That's about it really. That's about all you can really do as a person. But I think anything more than that, we're getting into the kind of cope territory where we convince guys that they can change their whole facial structure and their bone structure by chewing gum all day or by breaking their bones, which is insane. I can't believe people are actually doing that. Mewing, which I don't think there's any proof that it actually works. It's kind of stupid. It's kind of dumb to just be kind of sitting there like a dog or something. But yeah, I think the way that mewing has become so popular with kids, I think they honestly think it's gonna like change their lives, and I think they're gonna be very disappointed when they realize that their face is gonna be their face and they can't really do much about it. And lastly, there's the cosmetic surgery that some parts of the black pill promote, which I think is just kind of insane. I think that just shows a lack of acceptance and self-love personally, but to each their own, So another belief that I really strongly actually agree with is the fact that your genetics play a massive role in your life. Like genetics are very important. Genetics are literally who we are. We're pieces of DNA that turned into humans walking around Earth. From your looks to your upbringing to your mental health, a lot of it is literally determined by your genetics. I think the word they use in the black pill is the genetic lottery, which is basically just like life, which is basically means, of course, like if you're someone who's naturally born with certain advantages based on your genetics. Let's say you're born and your parents are both tall, athletic, healthy, attractive people, then I guess you've won the genetic lottery. And then vice versa, if you're born into a family of like drug addicts who are just fucking ugly as shit, who don't look after themselves, and they're all like 4'5", then yeah, you kind of, it's peak. It is what it is. Because obviously we all have no choice in our genetic makeup. It's literally just luck and what we inherit from our parents that created us. So I do understand the fixation on genetics and how basically where you are is kind of just where you are. I do understand why people think that, especially if you're one of the people that have been given a shitty hand. You're kind of just like handicapped from the start, no pun intended. But my perspective on this like genetics point goes a bit deeper than the black pill usually goes. So for me, I like to go even deeper. So look into someone's childhood, literally like the way you were treated in your childhood, the way that your parents treated you, maybe the way that you were treated in school by your peers, etc. That can definitely shape the kind of person that you become if you let it shape you. I did some research on this, and literally apparently like 50% of your like mental makeup and your mental health is basically based on your genetics. So if your parents both suffered from like mental conditions, it's very likely that you'll also suffer from one at some point in your life, which of course is out of your hands, and that's just genetics. But however, as I said, these things only define you if you allow them to define you, in my opinion. Because if you haven't, started to make efforts to kind of unlearn the negative things that you believe about yourself, unlearn your past trauma, unlearn the past things that you used to believe that no longer help you move forward, then of course you're gonna, think that your genetics are all you are. But as someone who's like trying constantly to, unlearn past behaviors to improve and get better, I no longer feel like I'm completely defined by my genetics, because I've put in a lot of work to unlearn some of the things that are passed down to me genetically. A lot of this is just because I'm trying to work through this victim mentality that a lot of us have, and especially I know a lot of people in the black pill have this mentality as well, where they feel like they're like a victim of circumstance and there's nothing they can do. I think living your life like that is just miserable, isn't it? Like just thinking, everything's f***ed, I can't do nothing about it, I give up. I feel like that's the worst way to live, so I just refuse to do that shit personally. And another point I agree with is that the fact that society does not really give a f*** about men. Let's be honest, especially young men. So like a really common opinion in the black pill is that young men feel hopeless and that society no longer needs them. To the point where terms like rope max are like a norm in that community, which in case you don't know, it literally just means unaliving yourself basically. And the fact is like young men just feel useless and hopeless, to be honest. They can see the world and where it's going, and they struggle to find a place for them in the future. Like, think about it, as a young man in the West, like looking where the West is going and what their value systems are, you can't really blame a lot of young men for thinking, yeah, like, I don't see where I fit into this, and basically choosing to give up instead of playing the game. Because the truth is, like, historically, a lot of the things that push young men forward to even get involved in, you know, the rat race, to get involved in capitalism, all that kind of stuff, is the fact that there were always prospects of having a wife and children and having a normal life. It was always quite attainable for most average guys. But for most men today, compared to the past generations, like, I think they just feel disillusioned. I can't really blame you guys, because if I didn't have, you know, the things I have right now, which is like my fiance, who I've been in like a stable relationship with, if I was single right now, like, yeah, I feel like I might be right there with you guys. I know like a lot of young men feel like life is quite pointless. Like, you're kind of told by society to just grind, work super hard, and then have like nothing to show for it, really. Especially in today's society, like, for an average man to just grind all week, a job he probably hates, and to come home to nothing, it's like, yeah, that would be fucking horrible. Yeah, so like, society literally expects young men like yourself to just grind all day, work a job, pay your taxes, come home to no one and just suck it up. It's clear that young men need help. Men in general need help. And the only ones that can help us is ourselves. And that's what I'm trying to do. Because the average man used to be able to, you know, work an average job and still live a happy life, to be honest, where he would have a community with wife and kids and family and friends in a place that kind of felt comfortable for them, where they didn't feel like they had to, I don't know, suffer in silence and just be ridiculed for things. I don't know. I feel like today's society, men are just ignored. Like, unless we're actively contributing to society at that exact moment, then no one really cares about men. And this whole idea of the average man being able to just be with the average woman and have a nice life, this may actually be like a thing of the past now, which is quite sad. Because nowadays it's way more difficult. Like, most women don't want to settle down with an average guy. And the ones that do want to settle down with average guys are probably a bit older in age, and they've already, you know, had their fun in the streets, done their dirt, probably have lots of exes from the past and trauma from past relationships, and now they're ready to settle down. And the truth is, most average guys don't want these women anymore, because they realize that these women are just kind of setups almost for a divorce that will probably just destroy them. And that's why a lot of young men, and men in general, are turning to the black pill, or just this MGTOW stuff, like avoiding women and just doing their own shit. But the truth is, single men and single women are treated so differently. Single men are shamed and called incels for, you know, not being active in the dating market and just focusing on themselves, basically. While single women that are focusing on their careers and basically don't have, you know, a relationship like that, if anything, they're coddled, celebrated, and even empowered for not settling, and choosing a bum. Basically, we live in a dystopian society that is overrun with degeneracy and instant gratification. And young men are the expendable resources that society is sacrificing. But that fact is what keeps me going, because they want you to lose hope. They want you to give up. And that's exactly why I refuse to give up. Just out of spite. Because I know the world wants me to give up, so I won't. And maybe that's cope, you know. If that's cope, then give me more cope. You know, if that's cope, then I want more of that. I'll keep coping, I don't mind. Because coping, in my opinion, is better than just admitting defeat. Because I will cope all day if I have to, if it helps me avoid falling into the pits of despair that the black pill has waiting for me. And if you want to go against the odds that's set up against you and get closer to trying to live a life that you can be proud of and live a life that, you know, goes against this whole fucked up system that we're in, then you're in the right place. And of course, there are a couple other things that I agree with the black pill, but I just wanted to focus on these. I didn't want to make this video too long. And if you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. Alright, see you later, incels. Mwah.
Are you seriously watching Pierce all by yourself again? Well, you might as well subscribe then.